Justin, we're going to quickly rank these guys for Dynasty here. I think we'll be in agreement that Ashton Jeanty's number one, Omarion Hampton, based on what you said earlier, I'm guessing is going to be your number two. How do we order the rest of these guys between Henderson, Harvey, Judkins, Johnson? And hey, if you want to throw any of those day three guys that we mentioned earlier in here, you're clearly, again, I say this with love, you are obviously a sick freak in terms of some of these deeper names. You want to throw some of those guys in there? The floor is yours, buddy.
You didn't even have to give me permission. I was going to do that anyway. I got a long list of guys that we're going to mention here. Don't worry. So we're going to start. The third running back is Travion Henderson. And a lot of this is going to go in the order that we just talked about it for me. And Henderson's pretty straightforward, right? I love the game-breaking speed. I love the pass catching ability. And like I said earlier, I think he is going to thrive as a pass catcher in that offense. That's where he's going to make his hay. We're not expecting him to come out and be some sort of workhorse and put up double-digit touchdowns. A huge touchdown total would be an absolute bonus for him. I'm expecting a lot of catches and that receiving role there. Next, and we have to put a huge asterisk next to this one, it is still Quinshon Judkins, because Judkins, talent-wise, is the next best running back. So in terms of, and we're looking at this from a dynasty lens, right? So this is for a full career. If all of this sorts itself out, if he gets back on the field eventually, he is the guy with the talent who would be my number two back in this. Although personally right now, probably just taking him off my draft board entirely and not drafting him anywhere, but we have to mention him here. We can't just wipe him aside. And so huge asterisks on that one. Judkins would be fourth there. Then RJ Harvey, the productive backfield. They're just looking for that guy to come in and really take it over. A really good O-line there. I think, like we talked about, he might have a slower start, but eventually he will take over and he's going to be a pretty good back for fantasy. Caleb Johnson, I just think he's a great value compared to the other running backs above him that we just talked about. You have to pay a pretty big price for those other guys. I've gotten Caleb Johnson in rookie dynasty drafts in the end of the first round. I find that he falls. More than happy to take him there. And I could see him being a productive player despite all the things we said about him. Career-wise, could come in. Not going to be the guy that's going to win you your league, but could come in. And the spots I've taken him, I'm looking at him as like an RB3 or a flex on my teams. You put him in that slot. You hope that he has a season where he puts up a big touchdown total. So I really like him there. Then there's a big gap before we get to the next guys. And the next guy for me, like we said, it's two together. It's Scatterboo and it's Tootin. Scatterboo, I think there's a chance he could take that job. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think it's going to end up being a committee, which is why there's that big gap between him and the guys above him. And then Tootin, I agree with everything you said. And when I first put out my rookie rankings, I had Tootin above Scatterboo. I changed it as time has gone on here, as some of the quotes have trickled out, and as we just haven't heard that drumbeat about Tootin. But he is such an explosive player. That's a backfield, again, another one that's kind of looking for that guy to step up. Obviously, Liam Cohen found it in Bucky Irving last year. Can Tootin be that guy? Can he do it 2 seasons in a row and pluck somebody from late and turn them into a fantasy star? I hope so. I don't necessarily know that that's going to happen, and he's still got a lot to prove, of course, there. And then you would think, okay, we talked about Jaden Blue. It's not Jaden Blue for me next. It's actually Jarquez Hunter on the Rams, and he's a guy who is very explosive. He brings something that I think the other backs in that Rams backfield don't. And this, we have to say, Kyren Williams, they're talking about an extension for him. Kyren Williams, just annually underrated by the fantasy community. He's going to continue to put up good numbers. He's so productive. Sean McVay running backs are very productive. But if there's a guy that's going to get in there and start to take away stuff from him, or maybe depending what we see in training camp, maybe they don't give Kyren Williams the extension because they see Hunter out there and what he can do in that offense and how explosive he is. I think he's somebody that I want to have on a lot of teams just in case he ends up being more of a long-term option for the Rams. So I will say that, but again, Kyren Williams, this is not that this is going to happen immediately. This is not that he's going to overtake Kyren Williams right away. It's just we're bringing that up because the Rams could use that back that has that game-breaking ability, and Kyren Williams is more just thriving in that system with the volume he's getting and the opportunities. So Hunter, then we go to Jaden Blue. Like I said, not sure he's ever going to be the lead back, but certainly, intriguing this year. Could he end up carving out a role? I think he will. I think it's just going to be a committee there, though. And that's why I'm not that excited about the Cowboys backfield. After that, we're going to go to Dylan Sampson. And we talked about him. I guess we could put an asterisk next to his name as well, because depending what happens with Judkins, Sampson could really vault up this list a few spots, maybe even get up into that Scadabo-Tootin area. If we find out that Judkins is going to miss time, or if his career is completely derailed because of the off-field stuff. And again, allegedly, but if that happens, Sampson turns into a very interesting fantasy pick. Tough landing spot though for him right now behind a more talented back and in the Browns offense for obvious reasons. Then I'm going to go to Brashard Smith on the Chiefs. And now we're getting into an area where I don't think he is ever going to be the lead back, but it really sounds like Andy Reid has a plan for him, wants to use him in the passing game. And maybe best case scenario for him could be like a Jerick McKinnon type. So we could see Brashard Smith give us some value this year. If it does happen, it's not going to be as an RB1 or probably even an RB2. It's going to be more of a flex play, but where you get him, if he returns flex value this year, that is going to be great. And then I'll stop there, but trust me, I have another like 12 names on the list that I am going to mention, but I'll let you jump in first. So I'll catch a breath.
No, just as you were talking and ranking these guys, number one, I think we're pretty close here. I might just at this point put RJ Harvey ahead of Quinshon Judkins just because I have a lot more faith in what's going on in Denver overall. And obviously with the off-field stuff, I think that's just, I don't know. And Henderson is a guy that, I was like, I'm kind of like in my head toying. Do I like RJ Harvey? Do I like Travion Henderson a little bit more? But I think Henderson was a better prospect. And ultimately, like, as much as I have some concerns about New England and his role in year one, I think from a dynasty perspective, I really like where he's going. So I'm not going to argue too much there. But my big takeaway, honestly, from looking at your list, and if you want to throw some more names out after I yak here for a second, I would love to hear them, because I think my two big takeaways, looking at your rankings here and just our discussion overall, I actually do think on paper this group might be a little bit overhyped. Like I might end up being not as good as maybe we think, just because of some of these scenarios that these guys landed in. I mean, think about a guy like Caleb Johnson for a second, who I really think is a good back, and I think is a wonderful fit in Arthur Smith's run game. But what if our bottom out scenario happens here for Pittsburgh this year? And like Mike Tomlin actually does move. Like, I think, by the way, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I might want to move on at this point from Pittsburgh and just start over somewhere else. Like go the Andy Reid route, right? Like it wore out in Philly, working out pretty good in Kansas City. I think there's a chance that it might happen for Tomlin that way. Well, guess what? Arthur Smith's not coming back as the offensive coordinator. Who's to say the next running back, next offensive coordinator has a run game system that's so outside zone heavy, which fits Caleb Johnson. So he might go the way of, like, I don't know, one of these guys that just never ends up hitting a ceiling. All these guys like Scadaboo, Tootin, whatever, they might never end up happening. So I do think, though, and this is my second point and why I want to hear some more of your names, is that when I'm looking back at that 2017 class, the strength of it, it's actually pretty similar from a draft capital standpoint, right? Like there's a guy, 2 first-round picks, Fournette, McCaffrey. There's Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon in the second round. Then there's Kamara, Kareem Hunt, James Conner in the third round. Like that's from a draft capital standpoint pretty similar to this group. But really where this group goes to the next level is like we got Jamal Williams in the 4th round, who led the league in touchdowns one year. Aaron Jones in the 5th round, who's obviously still a starting running back in the NFL. Like I mentioned at the very beginning of this, Chris Carson in the 7th round. So really, if this class is not going to be overhyped, even Marlon Mack was the 4th round pick and was really good before he tore his Achilles. If this class is going to not be overhyped, I think it's going to take one of these, seemingly random, very sleeper-ish names that you're throwing out here to actually hit here, Boone.
All right, so let's do it then. So let's go. And I will say, when you get to the late 3rd round into the 4th round of your rookie dynasty draft, I'm just loading up on these guys because along the lines of what you were saying there, the depth of this class might end up being its strength, right? Like there's a couple guys at the top we love, But man, there are so many guys down here that you could see a path to them ending up with roles and even potentially lead back roles, depending what happens, right? So I will start it in order for me. It's Ollie Gordon on the Dolphins. And I know right now, Devon Achane is the lead guy there. They're talking up Jalen Wright, that he's going to have a bigger second year and be more involved. And we've seen that offense have two productive backs at the same time when Raheem Mostert was a little younger and he was sharing the backfield with Achane. But you look at this, and Gordon is a bigger body. Gordon is a guy that had a ton of success in college, but then had kind of a down year before he left college. And I think people forget just what the highs were for him. And if he can get back to that in the pros, this guy's a very talented running back. Then we go to Kyle Monangai on the Bears, and the Bears backfield. They didn't do anything. We thought that they were going to go out and get someone. All the excitement, all the moves that they made with Ben Johnson getting there and with the offensive line and just rebuilding the interior of the offensive line. And now they're going into the season with DeAndre Swift again, with Roschon Johnson, who I think is a pretty intriguing pick in fantasy. And then with Kyle Monangai, who is way further down the list, is somebody you could get in the late rounds of your redraft leagues, or a guy that I would be targeting in like the fourth round of my rookie dynasty drafts, because he's somebody that could potentially end up being that other option. I don't think he's going to end up being the lead back necessarily, but a guy that could get into a Bears backfield that everything around them is going to get much better. So can there be a running back there that steps up? Next is DJ Giddens. This one is just an injury guy, like injury replacement type. If something happens to Jonathan Taylor with the Colts, Giddens could potentially step up there. Taj Brooks with the Bengals. Again, all these guys are very, very close together. I'm happy to get any one of them. Really like Taj Brooks as somebody that could potentially take on like the Zach Moss role. Zach Moss is back and he is going to try to get out there this year. But will the team eventually move on from him? It'll probably depend what Brooks can do. So Brooks could be that second back in the backfield with Chase Brown there. Trevor Etienne with the Panthers. Really buried on that depth chart because they have Chuba Hubbard, because they have Rico Dowdle. But those guys are like, they had good seasons last year for sure, but I don't think we look at them in the same light that we look at some of the other established backs around the league. So I could see a path where something opens up and all of a sudden you have the rookie getting more work there. Now, here's one that I love, and this is a deeper name. I think people are starting to realize it now. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt on the Commanders. Now, that Commanders backfield, I know Austin Eckler is your guy. He's getting up there, though. It's later in his career. Could we potentially see him start to, cede some touches and give up that pass-catching role to a guy like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who could be that explosive option in the backfield there for the Commanders, could really step up and play alongside of Brian Robinson, or eventually maybe he could take a bigger role in that backfield. I think I would love to see that for the Commanders offense. Probably not going to happen this year, would require some injuries, but still somebody that I've been drafting in a lot of places. And then I'm just going to rattle a bunch off here. Jordan James. Could he be the number 3 back for the 49ers? For years, we've been looking at the depth backs for the 49ers in that Kyle Shanahan system. I think Jordan James could be that guy that you grab late and could turn into something, even though he would be behind CMC and behind Isaac Orendo. A Devin Neal with the Saints. LaQuint Allen Jr. with the Jags, potentially in a pass-catching role. Woody Marks, I don't think people are talking about him as much just because the Texans assigned Nick Chubb, but he's somebody that could eventually be the number 2 back for the Texans. And then Damian Martinez I liked more as a prospect, ended up with the Seahawks, really buried on that depth chart. Phil Maffa on the Cowboys. If you're looking at Cowboys backs, who knows? Anybody could end up getting a chance this year. Maybe Phil Maffa could be that guy. Raheem Sanders, we're going down. Raheem Sanders, who we talked about. I only have a couple more. Clell Mullins on the Titans and Marcus Yarns on the Saints. The Saints, another backfield where we don't really know who's going to be number 2 there, right? So could Devin Neal or Marcus Yarns be that guy? I know they brought in Cam Akers recently. That probably tells you they're not that excited about what the rookies are doing in practice, but that's where we stand. I cut the list off there. That was the list that I had coming into this. I wanted to mention all those guys. And I'm telling you, when you get to like the 4th, 5th round, if you have one in your rookie drafts, load up on these names. Don't worry about the receivers. Don't worry about quarterbacks. There's some tight ends you might want to look at, but overall, get as many of these running backs as you possibly can.
Oh, Boone, gotta love you, man. You rattled off 27 names here, and I mean, I'm like, hey, we gotta get We got to get a sleeper from this group somewhere. Someone's in there in the 27 names. I do think the two I'll highlight that I think are, I actually might have a little higher than you is one, Devin Neal. I actually think I'd have him ahead of like maybe even Brashard Smith is really interesting because he landed with Kansas City Chiefs. I think that was the guy that Jordan Reed, when we had him on the show, talked about as like his guy in this running back class. So definitely someone to pay attention to there. But I really think Devin Neal was an underrated prospect who fell to the 6th round because, he is a tough running back. It's a big time running back class, but there's opportunity there for him. We really need to see the Devin Neal projected fantasy stats here for Devin Neal. I think he's going to be the second running back, though. I think he beats out Kendre Miller. I know Kendre Miller is like a fantasy Twitter favorite, but certainly somebody to keep an eye on there. And Damian Martinez, man, I think there was some off-field stuff, things like that. Maybe, and I mean off-field like maturity type things that maybe he didn't do so well in the interviews. That's why he got pushed out of the 7th round. But I really think he was a good back, and that system there in Seattle does fit him. So a couple names to note there, but yeah, 27 names. I'll just read them off real quick for the people. Ashton Jeanty, number 1, Omarion Hampton, Travian Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scattaboo, Basil Tootin, Jarquez Hunter, Jaden Blue, Dylan Sampson, Brashard Smith, Ollie Gordon, Kyle Monungai, DJ Giddens, Taj Brooks, Trevor Etienne, Ja'Cory Kwaski Merritt, Jordan James, Devin Neal, LaQuint Allen Jr., Woody Marks, Damian Martinez, Phil Maffa, then we got Sanders, Mullins, and Yarns. Those are Justin Boone's 27 ranked running backs among the rookies for Dynasty this year.
27, also my favorite number. Did not realize it was going to be 27. So there you go. There's some synergy there that works out perfectly. And I will say, I agree with you on Devin Neal. I had him much higher. I moved him down not based on the talent. Pre-draft, I had him actually quite high. I moved him down just based on the way things have kind of gone there. You see some things from practice where Kendre Miller looks like he's moving at a different speed than everyone else. So that looks kind of more interesting. Devin Neal really not standing out there. And then, like I said before, they bring in Cam Akers, and that makes me worried. Maybe it's just a veteran camp body, but it makes me a little bit worried that they saw what they saw from the rookies and they were like, we got to get somebody else in here to be the number 2 back, knowing that Kendre Miller has had so many injury issues and stuff. But I hope you're right about Devin Neal because I do really like him as a prospect.
What a show. Big show. I did not think we were going to go this long because I did not know that Justin Boone had 27 names locked and loaded, ready to go. I will never underestimate you again, my friend.